Welcome to the Dominate Your Social Media Content Strategy event. My name is Antoine Alexander with Networking with Purpose, and I want to thank each of you for joining us today. We have an amazing panel of social media experts here today to help you learn to maximize your content strategy. If you're anything like me, social media strategy just doesn't come natural to you. So hopefully our social media experts can help you elevate your game. Now, let me pass it over to our panel so they can introduce themselves. Rebecca, let's start with you.
Hi, thank you, Antoine. My name is Rebecca Foss. I am the Senior Director of Social Media at University of Maryland Global Campus. I've been working in social media since about 2006, 2007, when it started for businesses. At the time, I worked for Geico Insurance and launched their social media presence. And I've been with UMGC now for about a little over 10 years. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Rebecca. Let's go to Lauren.
Hey everyone, my name is Lauren Freund. I am a social media manager at Canva. I've been in social media for quite a while now. Prior to Canva, I worked at Shutterfly. And then prior to that, I worked on Taco Bell's social media team. So big passion for social media. I honestly get bored quite easily. So social media is a great spot for me because things are constantly changing. So super excited to chat with you all today about tips and tricks in social media and what I've learned along the way.
Excellent. Thank you, Lauren. Let's go to Vivian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vivian Acosta. I'm the Director of Social Media at Cricket Wireless. I've been with the company for a little bit over 10 years. And I've worked in between the Cricket Wireless brand and also our parent company, that's AT&T. I've worked on that brand as well. Really excited to talk to you guys today.
Thank you, Vivian. And Daniel, let's go to you.
Hey, everybody, I'm Dan. Really excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me. So happy to be alongside such a great panel. I'm the VP of Community at a company called Apollo.io, and we're like the ultimate platform for sales and marketers to run basically everything but their CRM outside of. In terms of a background, I've been managing social media at a couple different B2B SaaS companies. At Chili Piper, when I joined, we were getting about 5,000 impressions per month, and we increased that to a couple million monthly. Probably not on the scale of some of the other people here, but it was good improvements as a percentage. And now I'm at Apollo, where I manage our social media, our community effort, customer marketing, PR, brand, and events, which are all kind of connected. And social media is the red thread there. So I'm really excited to chat with everyone.
Thank you, Daniel. Before we get started with the questions for the panel, I have a poll for the audience. So I'm gonna launch this poll. What social media platform do you primarily use for your business or profession? And I'm gonna give them a few seconds to answer that question. And while they're answering that question, I want to go to the panel and just ask you what's your favorite social media platform for your profession, and just give a quick why. Let's go to Vivian.
I think that where I spend the most of my time these days is on TikTok. I think that there's a lot of entertaining content, but if you're intentional about your searches and what you look for, so using it more like a search platform, there's a lot of educational content, but also lots of perspectives too on educational content. So, like, yes, I'm there for all my Taylor Swift content and all my Real Housewives content and all the fun stuff, but I also go and search do research for work. So looking for platform optimization or ideas for content, etc. And there's many experts that are providing their point of view and great examples there.
Thank you. Taylor Swift really has a hold on people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's go to Lauren.
I'm right there with you, Vivian. My entire TikTok is Taylor Swift, and I am not complaining about it. I love it. So on a personal level, I definitely agree. TikTok is my favorite. Specifically, I do my searching there as well. I've I don't do Google anymore. If I'm traveling somewhere or wondering about something, I want to see, you know, a regular person who is videotaping it and what the restaurant looks like or whatever it may be. So definitely TikTok has a special place in my heart. From a business standpoint, I actually lean a little bit more towards Instagram, just because I feel like Instagram has reels. So it's very similar to TikTok, at least with our audience. We find that we can be a bit more educational there, and our audience is a bit more advanced, at least in terms of like Canva education. So we like to utilize that. And then there's other things, you know, like just posting in the feed with carousels, if it's a simple step-by-step tutorial, or if it's an event that we're hosting, we can put it on our IG stories. So I would have to say Instagram has just barely, you know, stepped up TikTok for me in terms of business.
Thank you. I'm that same way. I will watch hours of travel videos on YouTube. That's just me. But let's go to you, Dan.
Oh, I'm probably the least exciting. I'm a LinkedIn guy. Like LinkedIn is basically all I focus on. We have an incredibly talented social media manager at Chili Piper, Medjoli, who does all the TikTok stuff. My biggest thing is, since we relaunched our TikTok at Apollo, I've been on there a lot, because now I'm like, oh, this is field research. Anyone else in
Yeah.
social media feel that? You're like, look, maybe I'm spending an hour scrolling, or I'm learning about what makes content perform. So, but LinkedIn is, that's where I do all my stuff. It's the best place for B2B businesses for sure, depending on the business, but in most cases.
Yes, it is. What about you, Rebecca?
Well, I do like TikTok personally. I love to scroll and really can get sucked into that. But for our audience, we really cater to adult learners mostly. And so LinkedIn has been a really wonderful platform for us professionally. And it's been interesting the way LinkedIn has changed over the past couple of years. I think since the pandemic, it's become a little bit more of a mix, a hybrid of personal and professional things. So it's been interesting seeing how LinkedIn has been evolving too.
Nice. Someone wrote to you, Dan. That's productive procrastination. So let me end the poll and let me share the results. And I'm kind of surprised no one chose YouTube, but obviously Instagram is leading the pack, and Facebook and LinkedIn. So I guess it's kind of kind of leveling out how I thought. But thank you for answering the question. All right, so let's get right into the questions. So the first question: what are some effective ways to identify and understand your target audience so you can create content that resonates with them? Let's start with you, Rebecca.
So identifying your target audience, often I'll look at who my existing audience is on social media and see what they're engaging with, and kind of look at that content. If it seems to be that content is engaging the right audience for me, I might look at that content and do more of it, more similar content, or I might need to pivot. But being able to do polls and things like that, and I do love Instagram polls to kind of learn a little bit about your audience and start to identify those, the things that you're looking for, because sometimes you'd be surprised at the audience you think you're targeting isn't really who your audience is on social media. So it's important to understand who you are delivering content to, as well as who you want to be delivering that content to.
Nice. What about you, Dan?
Rebecca, first, that's such a great point on lookalike audiences. And this is true not only with social media, but with like the H1 copy on your website and everything. If you're going to test something, there's a chance your competitors might have tested the same thing. So add their copy to your whatever testing you're doing and things like that. In terms of an audience, I take a similar approach to Rebecca, but I also take kind of a weird approach, which is like, I've always made an emphasis on really first, before you're like, how do I target my audience? You need to understand who is your audience, right? So go look through the past revenue you've closed over the last year, work with product marketing, work with operations, work with the other departments to figure out like, who is this ICP? Okay, now you have it. It turns out it's not one audience, it's 3 audiences, right? For us at Apollo, it's like sales reps and revenue operations and marketing too. So then go out and ask those audiences, hey, marketing operations leaders, what podcasts do you listen to? Who do you follow on social media? What type of content do you like the most? Like, what communities are you in? What events are you in? By doing that, you can kind of build a map of the spaces you need to influence. In some cases, you'll be influencing them with social media, but in other cases, it'll be ads or whatever. And like, if you can help the other departments by plugging those gaps too, that's really valuable. After you've built out this kind of audience map, you want to figure out what content resonates with them, right? So you know your audience, once again, ask them or show polls and then see how it performs. On LinkedIn, which is basically where all of my feedback is going to be directed towards because Medjoli's not here and she's the Instagram expert. We found that we actually have several distinct audiences. So what we want to do is not just speak to the same people every time or try and create content that resonates with everyone all the time. What we want to do is create content that maybe resonates with 15% of the audience, but it resonates really deeply with them. And then we'll cycle through different content types and different content categories. So it's like, how do we create something that resonates deeply with sales reps on video, in short form text, in long form text, using a poll? How do we do the same for another audience? So basically through this, you can establish kind of content pillars by audience. And then for me, kind of creating content that resonates with them is a series of tracking the engagement and performance of those posts to validate these kind of pillars of content, which you then present uniquely in different mediums.
Wow, very good point. Let's go to Vivian next.
I mean, I want to echo everything that Rebecca and Dan just shared. I think a couple of things that I can add as well. So number one, I think that you can't be everything to everyone. So sometimes, you know, it feels tempting, especially when we're working on organic social media and building our channels and, you know, creating a publishing strategy, creating content. We want everybody to love us. We want everybody to want to see the content, to engage with it. But that's not realistic. We are fighting with so many forces. We are fighting with people's attention span. Also, we're fighting with the algorithms. We're fighting with like real news, trending topics, etc. So that's a reality, right, that we operate in. So then back to what Dan was saying. Definitely not so much where do I find my audience in social media, but take a step back and understand who your target audience is. What is their interests? How can you and right now we're talking about social media, right? But how can you on social media be, or what role would you play? What role would you play, or how can you assist them during their purchase journey, right? As they're navigating through the funnel. You know, if it's upper funnel, what would interest them? And, you know, in the case of Cricut, for example, we have, obviously there's an entire target audience that the company has determined that that's our target audience. But then in addition to that, we have all these different messages that we're asked to put on social media. And we have to package them in a way in which it's consistent, but understanding that each one of these messages may not necessarily reach the same target audience. So I think that, and you know, and just to close out, right? Just like understand your audience, understand your interests, and understand how your brand and your product can help them, you know, can help connect all of that as you're building the content. Ultimately, it's going to help your content reach the right audience.
Thank you. I mean, it's obvious that our panel has a breadth of experience. So if you have a question that you want to ask them, Later on, we will have the Q&A. And if you want to hop on stage to ask a question, just raise your hand and you can hop on stage and ask the question, or you can put it into the Q&A box. So you guys are making some very great points there. But let's transition into our next question. How can we use social media content to build relationships with potential customers and turn them into loyal fans of your brand? Let's start with you, Lauren.
Yeah, so I love this question because I think social media has really been created as a two-way street versus other mediums of marketing like billboards or TV commercials. Like, that's not a two-way street. You're just speaking out, you're shouting into the void. And for now, we finally have this place where we can speak and build relationships with people. And I think social media platforms just themselves, and then within social media platforms, people find their own communities and what they like, and they curate their feed, et cetera. So I think it's super important to try to find your space as a brand within that and connect with the people that you want to connect with. Something that we really emphasize is having a whole, Dan was talking about pillars before, we have a whole pillar for brand love. You know, whatever your company's goals are, whatever your service or product is, I think it's so important to set aside time and energy and resources for brand love, which really just includes connecting with people, showing people why your brand cares about them, and why they should care about the brand, because I think that's what really builds those strong relationships of something you want to follow someone or something or a company because you know that they can add value to your life. So I think to do that, it's really important to be creating content that's brand love, and maybe to your audience, you have to learn along the way what that looks like. Maybe it's education, giving them tips. Maybe it's as simple as funny trending memes or TikToks. You know, you just kind of have to figure out what that is based on your content performance and what people are really gravitating towards. But building that strong relationship through your audience, I think, is so important. And whatever your goals are, it's really going to lead, I believe, to either, you know, longer subscribers or more purchases, revenue goals, whatever it may be.
Brand love. Okay.
I would love to add something on brand love.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because Lauren, you're so right there. Because it's not only like giving love to the brand, but it's giving love to those who give love to the brand, right? And it's like one of the first things I did at Apollo was anybody who mentioned Apollo anywhere in a positive nature, and most of the ones who mentioned it in a medium nature, and then some of the ones who mentioned in negative nature, but definitely all the positive ones, we gave them a big thank you, right? And we made them feel really good. Like, imagine if you, I hate to use a metaphor, like you have a new best friend there. I won't use a dating metaphor. And you're like, hey, best friend, you're the best friend I ever had. And you put it out on like a public message board that they're in, and you tag them and they don't reply to you. Like, there is nothing more that deflates evangelism than unrequited brand love. So I just think that like brand love is so important. If you're looking to do one simple thing, it's like build a product that's great enough so that people rave about it. And then when they rave about it, make them feel really good. Then you'll acquire these people and they'll come back and they'll be your cheerleaders at every phase of your social media growth.
100%. That's why engagement is also super important. Lifting those people up.
Well said. Well said, Dan. Rebecca, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback off of what Dan was saying and Lauren. You know, just that what you said, Dan, about just saying thank you or just acknowledging that someone's mentioned you. And mentions are a huge way to get your message out there to people that might not be following you or might not know about you, because when one person mentions you, it's going out to their entire network. And so it brings awareness. And so just saying thank you or congratulations or whatever. I work at a university, so often on LinkedIn especially, we get people who are saying that they just graduated and they put it in their LinkedIn profile. And so they have that they just, finished a degree. And so to take that moment to say congratulations, is not only have they spent some time with us getting their degree, but now we're still with them and we're still talking to them and saying thanks. And, we care about you and we want you to succeed. So I think that's really important.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. I'm going to move on to our next question. And I think this question is very, very important because you have to have a balance when you're using social media. You're not you have a balance between giving value and maybe selling a little bit. So how do we use social media to promote our products or services without coming across too salesy or pushy? Let's start with you, Vivian.
Okay, so I think that there's I would start with having a good and balanced content strategy and content mix. There's opportunity, right, for content that is relatable, that it's grounded in relatable experiences. So I'll give you guys the example of how we approach it here at Cricut. We have, when we want to talk about one of our products on a social media post, we'll talk about the pricing of our plans, or we'll talk about a specific device that's on sale. But then also we create a lot of content that it's grounded on the experience of using your cell phone. So that can be around texting. And the other day we posted about, the autocorrect, how autocorrect often can betray you. It's coming from, it's a post that invites engagement, that it's shareable, that it connects with people. It's branded, right? Because the brand is present in terms of the context and, colors, font, etc. But nowhere in that post were you hearing us talk about our price plans or our devices or where our stores are. And then we try to balance out our content, in between those relatable experience, also jump into conversations where there's cultural moments too, jump into cultural moments and also show up authentically as a brand, and map out where is it in that cultural moment that there's room for us to play in, and then also obviously leaving room for those promotional posts, those that have more lower funnel messages, that then we're really talking about our value proposition, our products, and inviting people to come to the website or visit us at a store.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to you, Lauren.
Yeah, I think that's something that we struggle with a lot when it comes to being too salesy. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to sell something. And especially it's hard because not a lot of people want to follow brands on social media. Inherently, it's a place to connect with your friends and to share photos. And so I think it's already an obstacle we have to overcome. So when thinking about how we can connect to people in a non-salesy way, for us, we really try to think, okay, what is a real life use case? Whether it be a product or a service. So what's a way that we can connect with people that they want to see? They're like, oh, I do want to know how to use that as I would in my everyday life. So a lot of our content is about that. And we try not to make it too salesy to the end goal, which is sign up for Canva or like buy Canva Pro. We really just try to show off all of our features and products in a very simple to understand way. And, depending on what time of year, what trends are going on, we really like to connect with those things as well. Because if we can connect to people on that very organic level of exactly what they would use it for, then we don't even have to be salesy. We don't even have to say, hey, buy Canva Pro. It's just kind of that second thought that comes after, oh, wait, I could really use this. This would be really valuable to me. So we really like to put a lot of effort in that and just kind of let the sales part organically happen on their own.
Nice. Thank you. Let's go to Dan.
A lot of people on LinkedIn, once again, if you're not looking for TikTok advice, maybe scroll past my part. But on LinkedIn, there's this thing like, personal pages outperform company pages so much. At Apollo, we're driving 350 to 600,000 organic impressions from the company page each month, which isn't as much as these mega influencers drive from their personal page, but it's a lot and it meaningfully impacts our business. And I wonder sometimes if people think that the company pages don't perform well, is that because the fact that they're pages, there's a different algorithmic lift on them? Or is it the fact that everyone's just producing this boring corporate sterilized content, right? Part of what we've done at Apollo to bridge the gap between telling our product story and telling a human story is trying to tell that story through the lens of the human. For example, if you go to LinkedIn and then you go to the hashtag Apollo products, you'll see every major product announcement, but not made with a screenshot, introducing 5.0, whatever. Instead, there's a picture of the face of the lead PM who built that product, telling the story about how as a human, they're terribly excited about what this product is doing and how it's changing the world. So what I would say is like, this is a similar thing. If you're going in, you're building your content pillars and you're testing them, my hunch is you'll find like posting, here's our white paper doesn't work. Like the stuff that the suits, so to speak, want you to post that is approved, like anything that looks like a marketing asset, like all that stuff isn't going to perform as well than someone who's like, yesterday I did this and here's what I learned, like in a real way that connects with them as a human. So I think sometimes on social media, we forget one of the rules of business that a lot of people in business forget. And that rule is to not get right down to business, right? To share something in common with someone and build connection before you tell the story. I think if folks focus on that, they'll find that they're able to tell their product story from a human lens. And that is what really drives that connection anyway. The one last tip I would have here is to have your social media manager comment on every post themselves. People should know who your social media manager is. That'll help them build a brand, because what you're looking for, especially on LinkedIn, is like, 10 people to comment on every post. Like if 10 people could comment on every post, I guarantee you 99% of companies on LinkedIn would have a 1,000,000% increase in their reach, right? Well, then LinkedIn would shut it down because it wouldn't be sustainable. But anyway, yeah, just make it human.
Make it human. Make it human. Very good tip, Dan. The storytelling aspect of it does segue into our next question, because I believe telling a story in your social media marketing is very important. So what role does storytelling in social media marketing, what role does storytelling play in social media marketing, and how can you use it to connect to your audience on a deeper level? Let's start with you, Rebecca.
So yes, similar to what Lauren and Dan were talking about. People, especially on organic social media, and it, you're on the platform and you know which one's an ad and you know what is a post, and it'll say sponsored, and there's a place for ads on social media platforms, and then there's a place for your storytelling, who you are as a company, who you are as a brand, an entrepreneur, whatever it is you're doing. So use your feed and your organic social media to tell the story of your business, of your brand, of you, of the people that make up your business, of making that human interest and building an emotional connection, not just a connection that connects the brand to the person, but how does it resonate to them emotionally? What are they going to get out of it? What value are you providing? And so kind of going back to what Lauren was saying about the use cases. So on our organic social media, we don't tell people to enroll with classes most of the time. We might do it like 10% of the time, but we tell a success story of a student, right? And we don't say, now you can be this successful too, go enroll. We just tell the story, because similar to the use cases, you're going to get the followers, the people that are resonating with that are going to get something out of it. Like, oh, maybe I can succeed too, or maybe I can use that Canva product as well. So really building that emotional connection, that's what's going to drive people to be interested in you. And you have to provide them with something of value, because those algorithms, they are tricky and they will not show your content unless people are engaging with it. And people will engage if it is a regular photo, not branded, no frames around it, nothing, just an organic photo. That's what gets engaged with the most, commented on the most. There's a place to do that in organic, but but putting the, and that's what Canva's for, and it's wonderful. But really having that mix and understanding what platforms you're posting on. So Instagram, you definitely need those organic photos. LinkedIn, there might be another place for doing some branded things, right? So you have to kind of cater your content to the platforms too.
One thing on this,
I
Rebecca,
encourage.
Oh.
Go ahead.
please, after
ahead,
you.
Dan. No, go ahead, Dan. You got it.
Okay. Rebecca, something that resonates with me so much is you said people want to build an emotional connection with someone there, with a real person. And what I found is it actually, like, I believe that social media managers have a moral responsibility when it comes to showcasing folks. When I was at Chili Piper, we grew our TikTok presence from 100 to 17,000 in about 2 months. By we, I mean the reversed royal we, it was Medyuli. But how she did it is we had these videos of different employees who'd point, and it would be like, apply to Chili Piper, 50% female management, no gender pay gap, apply now. What we found is that the applicants, and we drove over 8,000 applicants, and there was an article in Forbes about it. You can look it up, Chili Piper, TikTok, Forbes. Medyuli was the person who did all the work, and she's awesome. But the people who applied would match the location, gender, and race of those we showcased. And it's like, the power of social media is incredible. So what I would say is that, like, it's totally true. People want to resonate with someone. They want to see someone that looks like them, that's successful at that company or with that product, to build affinity to either want to work there or want to buy from them to some extent. So, and it's also the buying committee, especially in B2B SaaS, is becoming more diverse. So I think social media managers can help lead the way and, like, showcasing something other than just like white dudes all the time, which a lot of companies do, to be honest, and it's probably hurting their content.
There's a lot of gold in here. I encourage everybody, but this event will be posted after maybe sometime tomorrow. And I encourage everybody to rewatch this because there's a lot of gems being said here. I'm actually writing down some information, writing down some, little keywords that I'm hearing as I'm, kind of hearing it. I think you guys have some really great experience, a lot of great things to offer. Let's go to Vivian next.
So storytelling, I think that, it's already been said, right? But storytelling on social media, it drives engagement, it drives connection. I think it also provides authenticity too. So one thing is for you to say, for the brand to say, we sell a high quality product that will, make a difference in your life. Another one is to have a customer show how is it that this product really solved whatever problem was that they were trying to solve, or thinking about employer brand, if that's what you're positioning. For example, on LinkedIn, talk about an employee that that the story of the employee that started working at one of our stores, and then now is the VP of marketing, and showing that story tells how the company provides opportunities for career growth and education, and invests in their employees. So I think that yes, social media is the perfect place to tell those stories. Often I've seen that people shy away from diving into telling the story because we think like, I'm gonna have to film a mini documentary to be able to tell a robust story, an interesting story. But I'd invite you to look at the format that Humans of New York uses on Facebook and Instagram. It's extremely beautiful storytelling, but he uses still images and then a quote from the person. So I think that, human stories, driving that human connection, the stories are there. All you have to do is go find and obviously get permission from your employees or your customers or your partners in your community, and interview them. You can get a still photography and use the power of copywriting, and you can tell those stories, and that content really truly drives lots of great engagement, and it does make a difference in building brand love and connection.
Nice. Thank you, Vivian. I just have a book that I really love. It's let me know if you guys have heard this, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. This is a really great book for anybody in the audience who's looking to understand how to clarify your message for the audience, for your customers. I think this is a great book for anybody who needs to, better understand the art of storytelling. I've read this book like twice now, and I still, every time I go through it, it's like something new that I read and I get some insight on. So I think this is a very, very good book for anybody who wants to learn. So Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. So thank you, guys. Let's go on to the next question, which we're going to start with Vivian first on this one as well. What are some best practices for creating engaging and attractive captions or headlines that entice people to click through and learn more about your brand?
I think there's two things. I'm not fully transparent. One of my strong suits is not copywriting, but I think it's a strength too in reviewing copy. But I always follow two things. Number one, it's assumed that people don't read. So it's important. That's why it's important to have a strong image, strong graphics, and then also getting to the point quickly. Sometimes we see, like also in the spirit, right, of telling a story, you have a big intro paragraph in the copy, and then you still have to read. You have to read all the way halfway through the second paragraph to understand what is it that the copy is trying to tell you. That first sentence, those first, 6-10 words, they need to get to the point. They need to summarize what you're trying to say. I think as far as, again, images and posts, as a best practice that I always try to follow, it's also keep it simple. So focus on one message, focus on one call to action too. And that way, you only really have only a few seconds of people's attention in which that they're going to give to you, and they're going to decide if they're going to click and expand and read more, or they're going to scroll away. So I think it's always really important just to get straight to the point. Get straight to the point, so you can give them enough information that they can make that fast decision.
Get straight to the point. Very good. Thank you. Let's go to you, Lauren.
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment, that assume no one's going to read, because especially with the social media platforms we have nowadays, everyone looks at the visual first, whether it be a photo or a video. So I definitely live by that. I like to see it or visualize it as a pyramid, right? So at the top, you just have like bare minimum of what you need to say or what's going to hit your audience. And from there, if your audience has more questions or have their own opinions, that's a great engagement opportunity. And then you can kind of go more in depth. And if you get to the bottom of the period where you're writing paragraphs back and forth through a DM, then great, because now you're really connecting with someone. But save that for when it's necessary and just stick at high level, and really let your content speak for itself, whether that be a photo or a video or just the message that you're getting across. And then a second thing that I really like to think about in terms of not only copy, but also content is the idea of why share, why care. Why are you sharing this piece of content? Why is anyone going to care about it? And I find when I'm going through copy or content in general, that really helps me weed through some things and get to what the final asset should be. Of course, the why share part is your company goals. This is why you're sharing it. You need to communicate something. But the why care is really going to like keep you in check and keep you in line of like, will my audience care if I go into detail about this? Probably not. They will care if I have a really quick hook, or maybe I communicate this in a trend way, or like a joke that's going around TikTok. So those are the things I like to keep in mind, is making sure you're staying at the top of the pyramid when it comes to copy and content. And then also always thinking, why share, why care before you publish something.
Why share, why care? Thank you. Very good advice. Let's go to Dan next.
Why share, why care? That's all you need to know. Lauren, I love it. Once again, I'll keep my stuff primarily to LinkedIn. But you know, in LinkedIn, the click-through rate is the see more button, right? You click that button to say see more. On mobile, it's about 2 lines in an image, or 1 line in an image. And on desktop, it's 2 lines in an image. And I like to think, you know, writing that hook, that's what we call it, the first segment of the post on LinkedIn, that's like 90% of the battle, right? There's this book I read called Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini, and he talks about these 6 principles of persuasion. I think they're consistency, authority, reciprocity, liking, consensus, and something else I can't remember. So something I like to think about is like, what is the psychological pull in the hook? Is it authority? Above the hook, am I saying, I've increased partnership revenue 20,000% at a company you respect? Here's why you should click see more, or something. Is it intrigue, right? Is it scarcity? Like, here's the things you need to know before it's too late, right? Things like that. Those are kind of bad hooks, to be honest. I wouldn't write or approve any of the ones I just said. Well, maybe I'd write them. I wouldn't approve them. But the idea is like a complete concept above the hook. And it doesn't have to be like you articulate your whole point, but people should know either what you're talking about or what you're about to be talking about, or you should leave them on the hook for something. So, you know, like, we call it burying the lead. If the most incredible part, like, let's say you have a post and the coolest thing is that, you know, you just raised $1 billion, and then your post is like, I have a huge announcement to make, one that everyone here will find very exciting. Oh my gosh, you're going to love this announcement. And then the 4th line is like, we raised $1 billion. It's like, nobody's going to see that. That's not going to drive the action you want. The first action you want is to get them to click the see more button on LinkedIn. Then you want them to read the entire post. Then you want them to engage at the end of the post. So you have your hook. And then as soon as they click the hook, you want something else to keep them in there. So it's like a post it's not like trying to get them to read a post. Try to get them to read each segment of a post. And at the end, take the action you want them to take. A lot of times the best action to get someone to take is just a conversational driver, because the way that LinkedIn determines algorithmic distribution, it's through real conversations being created in the comments that they consider valuable. So what I like to think about is like, when you're trying to drive activity in the comments, imagine that someone's like climbing a tree. You want to give them branches. Like, how do I make it really easy for someone to reply to this in a way that'll be meaningful to them as well? So in short, just don't bury the lead. And if they won't share, why would you care? What is it again, Lauren?
Yes. Why share, why care?
Why share, why care? I love that.
Why share, why care? Thank you guys. We're gonna get to a few questions. I do have another question that I do want to get to you, that I do want to get with you guys about, but we're going to answer a few questions right now from the audience. The first question is, what advice would you have for mental health content creation? I just started my company and our goal is to reach mental health professionals. Anybody can just, if you have anything that you could add for Krista.
I'll go ahead, Lauren.
Oh no, you can go. I'll go next.
I was going to say Rebecca's advice earlier was really good. Go look. And it's like, if you're trying to reach them, maybe there are 100 ways to reach them, but we can talk about the social media aspect of that, because that's kind of our space. But look at your competitors. How are your competitors reaching them? That's one framework you could use. You could use the framework I provided earlier, which is understanding your audience by surveying them, or surveying your potential audience and just asking them. A lot of times I think we get too fancy in marketing. Just ask them. Ask the customer to advocate for you. Ask the customer to give you feedback on your campaign. Ask the customer. It's all about asking the customer, because if you don't ask the customer, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was going to say, there's no shame in looking at the competitors or looking at other people in the space, what they're doing, because you're not doing it to copy their content. You're doing it so you can learn about the audience and you can learn what they're liking, what they're not liking, maybe some holes in their field. And, I think it's really important to, especially in the mental health field, to be able to connect with someone of what they need. So like Dan said, there's no shame in asking and there's no shame in getting inspo from other places. And it's always going to be like a learning curve, whatever company you're working for or field you're working in. Even if you worked in that field for a while, like audiences are always changing and priorities of customers are always changing. So as long as you go into it with a very much open to learning cap on, and a social strategy that has room for flexibility. I think that's definitely something that I always try to emphasize at the teams or the companies that I'm at is your strategy has to be able to be changed and to be flexible because things are always changing. So yeah.
Thank you. Look at the competitors. Thank you for that. We have another question. What is the best way to learn about data analytics for each social media channel?
I can hop in on this one if I'm understanding the question correctly. I think setting aside your benchmark KPIs for each channel is super important. So when you're looking at the data and like analyzing how your content's performing, every channel is different. Every channel should have a different strategy and purpose. So I would treat them all as individuals. What we like to do at Canva is know what our benchmark numbers are, which basically indicate to us like, okay, just making up these numbers. If a post on Instagram gets 100 likes, that's normal for us. Like that's good, we're fine, we're on track. So when we post content and it gets around 100 likes, we're like, great. If it gets a lot less than that, then we need to, reevaluate. And then we have what we like to call our crazy big goal numbers, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's those numbers that if you hit them, you know that you did something exceptionally well, and you should analyze that post and try to take whatever it is that you think did well in that and apply it to others to see if you can replicate it. And having these, post analytics numbers are so important, and being able to read the data in that sense is going to help you continually evolve and improve your content. In terms of actually looking at it, I don't know, the analytics on each platform change every day. I have beef with the Facebook one. It changes all the time. But a lot of third parties are really good. I've been a Sprout user for a while at multiple different companies. And I think reading their data analytics is super helpful, especially if you're new to it. I've also used NetBase before, and Salesforce's data analytics tools. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, I would just add, I'm also a Sprout user, and it's great. It's great to have a platform there's some there are different levels you can get, like enterprise level or a professional level. So depending on, the size of your business or what type of business you have. But having that type of platform to be able to aggregate everything together so you can see a bigger picture, because going into Facebook analytics, it's like, which metrics are you looking at? Because there's so many of them. And what is important to you? And so, or to your organization or to your CEO or whoever it is that is making those decisions. So kind of looking at and determining which of those metrics are going to be most important. And then if you can get your hands on a social management system or something that can aggregate all of that together for you, is going to be really, really helpful.
Okay.
This is all great advice. One thing I would add, kind of along the lines of what Lauren said, these algorithms are changing constantly. And what I found has been really effective is to think like, I'm a engineer at LinkedIn who just released a new feature, or I'm the head of all the engineers at LinkedIn. If I build something, I'm going to want adoption of that new feature. So what I would really encourage folks is like, firstly, to figure out about the algorithm, Google it, find some good resources, but also ask in platform. Like the people ideally in platform who are experts at the algorithm should be to some extent validated by that platform. Maybe they bought 1 million followers instead, but for the most part, if I were to go on LinkedIn, I'd be like, who is the best at understanding the LinkedIn algorithm? LinkedIn network helped me. I'd probably get some pretty good responses. And then I would also build relationships with the people who know those answers and maybe connect with them, and they'll amplify my content. But the other thing is, like, when new features come in, test them. Like when LinkedIn polls first came out, it was like, oh my God, like every poll reached like 1 million people. Not actually, but some of these polls were popping off like 100,000, 200,000 impressions. And that translated to followers because they're like, think about it. Like, okay, we have content, but we don't have much engagement. We want to create polls as a company so people engage more with each other. So we're going to put a lot of weight on this feature because it's exactly what our platform's missing. And if you go through that in your head and you're like, yeah, I think they're going to put a lot of emphasis on video because they just released a video feature, then like get everyone in your team to record a 30-second video and post it. Like something like that. Be adaptable alongside the platforms as they change and understand what their goals are.
Great.
Yeah. And
Thanks, Dan.
I just have one more thing to add to that. I think also important that when you're looking at results, that they align to your individual post or campaigns objectives. So a post might be a post that's a video only, for example. Obviously, like you're gonna want to look at video views, but a post where you're asking a question and asking for people to comment, then comments and engagements, that will be a measure of success, right, for that specific post. Another thing too to consider is when you boost a post or put paid media behind an individual post, then that's likely going to drive your views or your reach or your impressions. And probably then your engagements, you're hopefully, right, you get really good engagements. But often what happens is that the engagement rate, which is the percentage of engagement to the number of impressions, it will usually drop. So I think also, as you go on this journey of understanding your numbers, know that and consider that not all posts are created equal. And then therefore, the way that we measure the success for each individual post, it's not gonna be the same. So just like make sure that you're adding context to that analysis too.
Okay, thank you. We have another question, which I think is a good question. And also is something that I know a lot of people struggle with. How crucial is consistency in social media content strategy, and how does it contribute to building a brand's online presence?
I can take a shot if you want. There's no one way to make an omelet or to make eggs or to bake a cake or to bake a cheesecake. I don't know why it's still doing more baking metaphors, but like I think consistency is important to some extent, but a lot of the gurus out there who are like, you need to post every day on LinkedIn to be successful. Like that is not the right answer. There are multiple ways to hit success in multiple different aspects. I think consistency can be thought about a couple different ways as well, because there's content consistency, but there's also the consistency of your posting frequency, right? And they both impact the algorithm in different ways. If I had to pick one that was most important, I'd probably say content consistency, because the issue is if you're going to build an audience, right? Most platforms are then going to distribute your content to your audience first. So if you build one audience on one content type, and then you're incredibly inconsistent and you're like, let's talk about dogs instead, like, then it's not going to be good. Like you create a Facebook group for dog lovers, and then you're like, this is the group where everyone loves the dogs the most, more than cats. And then it's all cat content. Like nobody's going to engage with your posts anymore. So in terms of consistency, content consistency is huge. And you have to be very intentional about understanding your audience or audiences. And if you are going to hit people with something that's not relevant to them, you need to make sure you hit something relevant to them like each week. Something's got to be relevant. We use 3 audiences at Apollo. The second aspect of that is consistency in terms of posting. And it really depends, once again, what does the algorithm want? When TikTok first got started, they wanted people to produce as many videos as possible. So the algorithm benefited those who posted 3, 4, 5 times a day. Now they want less, but more high quality content. So the algorithm is going to favor potentially fewer videos, but only because the output of producing so many high quality videos isn't really reasonable to put out 4 a day. Maybe it's different. Medjoli is the TikTok expert. Anyway, content consistency is huge. Posting frequency is also important, but probably not as important as people say it is, in my opinion, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I can add to that also that it's more important to be consistent as a brand, right, and with your messages and with what you deliver, and not so much with your posting, like Dan mentioned, like your frequency or even your type of content. It's also more important to be consistent or to show up as platform appropriate too, than to focus posting on every single day. Like TikTok, for example, the culture of the platform will tolerate certain things that might be cringy on LinkedIn. So, that can have an impact on your numbers. But then I think that within that framework and within whatever it is that your brand truth is and your brand values are, people do go to social media looking to be entertained and looking to be surprised and caught off guard. And those things are, and when you're able to execute that and do it really well, and it catches fire, it can be a really great success story. So I think as far as, building out your content strategy and taking into consideration or defining, right, what consistency means, it's mostly be consistent with your brand values, but don't feel so tied up that it holds you back on your ability to be creative and try new things, because I think that's one of the most awesome things about organic social, that it gives us a lot of flexibility to try new things within, our brand structure.
Okay, great. I have one more question that I would love to ask you guys. I would love to hear your opinions on this, all 4 of you. And if you could just answer as quick as possible, I think the audience could get value from this. But what are some common mistakes that we make while creating social media content, and how do we avoid them to ensure that we are effectively communicating with our target audience? Let's go back to you, Vivian.
All right. So I think sometimes we do too much, and I say we because I include myself, and I think this is a pitfall that it's very easy to dive into. I see also sometimes that brands can potentially jump on trends because they want to. There's something that's trending. There's a hashtag or a TikTok trend that's taking place, and they want to jump in for the opportunity to get all the views. But then not realizing that perhaps it's not appropriate for the brand, or just like I was saying, it doesn't ladder up or does not align to their brand values. And I think also the other piece is, we're not patient sometimes. We put in so much work into producing the content, creating the content. We want to obviously drive sales or drive results. And we lose sight of the fact that, on social media, we're building community, we're building relationships after all, and that takes time. We need to get to know our audience needs to get to know us. And that will take time, that will take conversations, interactions, before we start seeing those results. So those would be my 3 that I would call out here.
Okay, let's go to you, Lauren.
Yeah, real quick, I know we're at the end here. I would just say biggest mistake probably is not tailoring content to specific platforms. Sometimes I think people treat all platforms the same, and they're totally not. Platforms not the same, the audiences aren't the same. never mind your specific audience. So I think it's really important when you're creating content to think about the content on each channel and what it looks like. Maybe one is a skit video, maybe one is just a funny one-liner sentence, maybe one is a how-to video. They can all achieve the same goal, but they're executed in different ways because you have to treat the platforms differently.
All right. Thank you. What about you, Rebecca?
Well, I would agree with Lauren, and also with Vivian, but very quick. Don't follow a trend unless it has something to do with your brand or you can relate it to your brand. Don't just go out there and, and this isn't really a trend, but Motivation Monday is a perfect thing. There's no need to post Motivation Monday quotes that have nothing to do with your brand, right? Like if you can tie it back to your community and something one of your employees said, or, in our case, we used to do those a long time ago with students and alumni, that's great. But you don't have to, put a famous person's quote up there just to follow a trend. So I would say just make sure that it relates to your brand.
Thank you. And Dan.
I'll be really quick. The first one, as social media managers, like the world I think that I've seen Vivian and Lauren and Rebecca paint here is like what social media would be like if they let the social media managers decide it versus the execs who aren't even looking at the content. So the first thing I would say is build a strategy, don't do a task. You are the owner as the social media person. You're seeing more than probably anyone else at the company, except maybe the sales team, about how your product is discussed. Be an owner. Push back against the stupid ideas. Behind every bad idea on social, there's like a marketing exec, or like me sometimes. I make mistakes too. Second, social media is a team sport. It's not about the company page. Like your company page will never be as good as 100 employees who talk about you. So really build social media in a way to lift up your team. And the third is don't speak to your audience, speak with them. The number of companies I see who say something, but they're not trying to build community. Like nobody wants that. They don't want your marketing asset. They want to be your friend if you do it correctly.
Thank you. And that is our panel. I really appreciate you guys for all the knowledge that you dropped here today. This was, I'm sure, amazing value for everybody that attended and everybody that will watch this footage going forward. I really appreciate all of you guys' expertise because you really, I learned some things, and I'm pretty sure the people in the audience as well. But I want to thank you guys first, and thank everybody who came today. If you want to please, if you want to learn more about our future events and when this event, when the replay for this event will drop, please follow us on LinkedIn at Networking with Purpose, and we will get that out to you soon. But anyway, thank you for joining us. I hope to see you next time, and all the best. Thank you.